Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vegas Legal Magazine podcast. I'm Mark Fierro with Tyler Morgan, publisher of Vegas Legal Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us today. Time after time in public opinion polls, Las Vegans have a new issue that leads the list: homelessness in the streets of Southern Nevada. Panhandling used to be confined to downtown and some points east, and now it's not unusual to see homeless people in Summerlin and throughout the entire Las Vegas Valley. Today, our guests are Heather Engle, CEO of the Las Vegas Rescue Mission, and Ed Vance of Ed Vance and Associates Architects, one of the best architects in Las Vegas and a client of our firm. Today, we're going to hear their take on possible answers to the homeless situation and the new campus of the Las Vegas Rescue Mission. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, I have to say this planned campus is it looks like downtown Summerlin, right?
Yeah.
Why go to the added step of making it look that wonderful, that high end, that techy?
Well, that's a great question. I can't imagine anybody wanting to get involved in a project, and especially from a capital campaign, if they're not going to put their name on it, and if they're not going to get wanting to be involved in something that doesn't look good or as good as it could, then why bother? So we're trying to create an environment not only for those folks that want to be part of this project, but also for our clients.
Yes.
Because as you've mentioned on a number of occasions, I think it's important to give these people a bit of dignity.
Yes.
And maybe you want to speak to that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that there's such a polarization, in what we live in our own little worlds, and we assume that little world is what it is, but it's not. There's so many families out there. Everybody's just a few paychecks away from a different life. And if I'm going to give something to somebody, then they're going to get what I would get my child or my girlfriend, right? So they shouldn't have less than just because they're coming out from a really hard place. So if you give somebody something dignified, they're going to sit up into who they are better. They're going to feel like they belong. They're going to feel like they matter and that they're part of something amazing. So it's important.
Yeah, Heather, you have all that sounds good, but a lot of people could say that, but you have a track record. How many fed, how many housed, how many?
I do.
They're just huge, just vast numbers.
Yeah, I do. Well, so we serve about 1,000 meals a day. 600 of those are to the outside guests, and those are the people that are coming in off the street to eat for free. And so when they're in our dining hall, that environment, we have people come play the piano, people come and entertain, and they're treated as if they would be, if they're in a restaurant, they're treated dignified. So those are our numbers for food alone. We have 164 shelter beds, and that's for people that maybe some transitional families, but mostly overnight people. So there's something called the working poor, and these are people that have jobs, but something's happened and they don't really have anywhere to live or a bank to save their money in. So that's kind of our focus there. I'd say the average income for low income is about $24,300 a year. The fair market rate on an apartment is $980 for 2 bedrooms, which means that's $18.85 an hour that they have to make in order to survive. So what's happened here, there's about 14,000, give or take, individuals and families that are homeless. 14,000, that's a lot of people. So it's important, the encampments is what's getting a lot of attention now, and I'm not going to speak a whole lot to that. I think that the city's doing a phenomenal job with trying to make some change. I think the county is doing a phenomenal job by creating systems that are helping us place, everybody's doing everything they can do. The encampments are what people view as homelessness, and it is, for sure. But if we take a broad brush to anybody, nobody's going to appreciate that, right? We're individuals. So we don't know all their stories. But it's the hundreds and thousands of people behind that don't get seen because they're not on the streets necessarily, or they're moving around, they're relocating. And, these are people's children, right? They had something. When I was 6 years old, I skated. I grew up in Carson City. I was born in Elko. I am a native person. And I did all those things, right? I did all the things in high school. I was in student council. I was the vice president of my sorority. But I was a budding alcoholic the entire time. And there is something, when you look back on your life, you can see those isms in yourself. So when I was 6 years old, 16 years old, all those things, I never thought, man, I can't wait until I ruin my family's life. I can't wait until I throw everything worthwhile that makes me me away. And it's the same thing for these people. You know, we can look at them and think, oh, God, them. No, they're us, right? Pain is pain. You know what pain's like? You know what dread's like? You know what hopelessness is like? You know what joy is like? It's the same for them too.
I would say this because we talk about healthcare in general terms, and we talk about homelessness. But if you've got what you consider a decent job, and you're relying pretty much living on paycheck to paycheck, if you break your leg, that's going to cost $25,000. Take $25,000 out, and where are you?
Exactly.
You're without a job for 6 or 7 weeks, and that money is gone.
Exactly. And I'm so happy that you said that. That's super important because that's what happens. My former husband was paralyzed quadriplegic when I was 18 months sober. And he owns Titan Brands, and he has restaurants, Husong's and Slice and Mandalay Bay and Boca Park, and he did all that in a quadriplegic state. Everything changed for everyone like that in a moment. Everything shifted. We were very lucky. We were divorced then, but we're a very unified family to this day. We were really lucky. We know people, right? We're Native people. We know people. Not everybody has that option to have somebody help with their insurance, maybe extend some days so that, he doesn't die, things like that. You break your leg, you have anything, you have pneumonia, the flu, right? Now we can't pay rent, or we can't make a house payment. When you get an eviction, it is impossible. It's literally impossible to get another apartment without assistance from somebody like us or the city or the county or every other amazing nonprofit that does what we do. So you do that, the children are pulled from their school districts. Everything changes so quickly. And I think that's exactly what happens, right? It could be an illness, it could be anything that can happen. But that 8 ball gets so big so quick that it's insurmountable to fix it on your own.
So how many $1 million, gazillion dollars, $100 million a year does the government give you to maintain your operation?
One of the most enticing things for me to interview with the mission was the fact that they weren't federally funded. I've rolled that kind of funding for years, and it's all wonderful and it's all needed, but it's complicated. You get a little more restricted. You can't do what you want to do. And so the mission has done something miraculous. Without a doubt. It's 18 to 22,000 private funders. In kind of the mailings it used to get, or, we used to get like mailings, we do the same thing all over the country. So that's how it's funded. With every crane that's in the city now, our cost of living's going up, which is amazing. However, it's also changed the way funding goes at some point too. Tax laws change, everything shifts. So that is the main source of funding for the rescue mission. We are right now bringing on more sustainable funding because life changes. It's going to ebb and flow. And we obviously have changes that we need to do, to do what we do. We do it great anyway, but what we need to do with a more healthy environment. So I did just write a county contract and with, I enjoy them. They're good people. So we have that for the first time.
And your retail center too, don't forget that.
Our thrift store kicks out.
Your thrift store
Quite a way.
saved your bacon.
It has. It absolutely has.
And that speaks to why we want this thing to, with 20 to 30,000 private investors or donors, that kind of gets back to your first question. Why would I want to be giving to something that looks like it does now when I can be investing in something or giving to something that has a better presence and is not a blightful thing. And it also helps your neighbors. For example, your neighbors are going to be, property values in that area are going to go up.
Absolutely.
So it's a win-win for everybody. So that's why we want to provide the best built environment possible, not just for the clients, but for everybody.
It is sort of an anchor tenant, isn't it? It's going to go from being this little nasty building that's been there for as long as I can remember,
right?
To being downtown Summerlin, on Bonanza.
Yeah.
You have a lot of donors, but you also have a patron saint, don't you? You've got a couple of real hitters in one family, right? In the Altrowitz family.
Oh, Walker?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the nasty comment, though, really quick. We don't really want to bring downtown Summerlin to the mission necessarily, because it's not that. It's not. And we don't think it's nasty. There's so much life that happens there. And here's the thing. You never know what you need till you need it, right? We can all think about something. It's magical, and it was magical for 50 years. Pastor Compton's 93. He still calls us once a week. So it's beautiful. And we don't want it to be that. It's going to stay culturally and funky and fabulous, but it's going to look better. And more importantly, it's going to hold up better. But so far, so good. Yeah, Walker Furniture is amazing. This past 2 years, I've gotten to know him really well. And we've certainly shared a lot of intimate moments because we're doing, the Home for the Holidays. And so we partner with them. Today, in fact, right before I got here, a young woman, I got called. She was coming over with her 12-year-old son. And she just completed drug court. And she's on her feet. She's giving back to her kid. It's beautiful. And she had nowhere to go. So she saved her money, lived in a place that maybe wasn't all that wonderful, got her first apartment, and doesn't have anything to put in it. And so we take her around. She goes shopping. She picks out stuff, and Walker's a part of that. So she's waiting on Friday before the Walker. So when somebody gets furniture that's new, their stuff that's nice, comes to us, it's cleaned up, and then we put it out for them. So the Walker Furniture there's not enough words for them, what they do for the community, and certainly what they've done for the mission.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Let me ask you, are we part of the problem or part of the answer? Or drive down any street, go to turn left, and there's somebody standing there that's asking for money.
Right.
Do we give money? Do we not give money?
You've
Do we
got
tell
an
them to
answer
send
for
them to
that.
you? What do we do?
I do not. Being openly out there in recovery as an alcoholic and opiate addict, I get it. I get those aspects of things. That's one of those things, though, that you don't really know the whole thing there. So I give them my business card and a bottle of water. If I do, sometimes I just don't. Some, not all, and I want to preface that, some, not all, actually make fairly decent income doing that. But that's not everyone's story. I do not give money to anybody, but I will definitely take somebody to get gas. I will throw them some fruit, a business card, and water. And if they're really ready to come in, I will call the staff and have somebody go grab them. But yes, it's assaulting, right? It's assaulting to me, to have somebody up in my window all the time at gas stations. It's unsafe, and you have to put up that visual barrier that says this is not okay.
But some of them, I know some of them, they're also trying to get just a little bit of money because they need to pay for the bed, the little bit of money that it is for the bed, correct? To spend the night?
No.
I mean, at your facility, but aren't there some facilities around town for the homeless where they have to at least provide something in order to get a bed to stay overnight? No?
No. Nope.
So there's what appears to be a pretty effective approach throughout the country that is changing things in homelessness. And there are some very large cities that have brought their homeless figures down to a few dozen people that they're chasing around. And the cornerstone of that is, as I read it anyway, is that instead of waiting for somebody to get clean and waiting for them to get sober and okay, now you can live in our place, it's get them a place, because when they're on the street, they average $150,000 to $160,000 a year as soon as they come into contact with the criminal justice system, and then we've all lost.
That's right.
Certainly, that's a moneymaker, isn't it? Without a doubt. So here's what I'll say to that. Coming to the mission was not a plan of mine, but it happened universally. As anything else, if you pay attention, really, really does. This, no one could have scripted that, and that's the best part for me. It's the best part. I brought Arnie Stock is the one that actually brought me to the mission. We talk. He knows Penta knows Ed, and now we're sitting here. So that I just really want to throw that out there, because this didn't happen. It wasn't a planned out thing, and that's the best part about how this is going to be to solve this problem. So as far as others, I can't comment on what other cities do necessarily, but what I can say in this factor is that I believe in long-term case management. I believe in affordable housing in good, healthy neighborhoods. so that people have dignified housing. They can run up and grab a coffee at a convenience store that is a healthy convenience store, that there's a park for their children to go into. They do normal family things. Put them in an environment where they can thrive. We typically, all the low income stuff is on the outskirts of the city, where there's no access to jobs, there's no access to clean, healthy parks with trees, where there are, restaurants that they can actually go and do normal family things. So I believe that affordable housing factor needs to be in the city, in the county, in these areas where people actually live, rather than the NIMBY factor of, oh no, we can't have that here.
Yeah.
I live in a fairly nice neighborhood that we worked very hard to do, but I watch my next door feed all the time, and I'm just appalled at what people say. So that's what I believe. And I also believe in long-term case management. So if you get a family in that maybe broke their leg, had some stuff go down, they know how to live. It's just been a minute, right? But we're going to hang with them in case somebody gets sick. And that fear, false evidence appearing real, fear, horrible thing, is paralyzing. And they don't really know how to, we'll be like, it's okay.
First
It's no
step.
big thing. We're going to walk through it. Sometimes families need a lot longer. You put them in four walls that seemingly is the right thing, but it might not always be the right thing. Because once you get something like that, it's the embarrassment factor to say, I don't know how to turn the stove on. I don't even know how to clean a toilet. So we want to make sure we're with people. We keep things very in general. Do you know how to clean a toilet? If not, we're going to run through it all anyway. And we stay with them for a long time so that when we back out so slowly, they don't know we're gone. So, that I believe that is a really key piece to this. Sober people like me, we've been around forever. That's going to be the way forever. There's incredible sober livings here in the Valley. Incredible for that. But yes, I have seen the reports on literally, let's pick them up, put them somewhere, get them safe. Then we can look at detox and stuff like that. And I can't say that I'm opposed to that. In the 1920s, 1930s, there were asylums. It's a horrible word. I agree. However, there was a place to take people who were chronic. There was a place to take the chronically mentally ill into a safe environment with medical care, and they were safe and they were off the streets. All those things kind of left over a period of time. I think that's a big component to this too.
You mentioned Arnie Stalk, and he should be sitting right there actually, because he's so much of the answer.
I'm sure he'll text me soon and tell me that very thing.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. Just to kind of backfill a story for our audience, he has come up with a model where he basically goes, instead, like you're saying, not in my backyard. Well, he found the perfect relief for that. They're already in the backyard. The place is all but falling over. It's dilapidated. It's the worst, property. It's been left to everything. And he goes in, cleans it up, puts a roof on it, puts heat in, gets everything going, brings everything up to, and then, and I saw the very best example of this. Because he's fulfilled on his promises, the stores and hotels and everybody else start sending food to him, so that I called his first one. It was the best place in the world for veterans to go and play cards, lie and spit, and live out their lives, and just big grins. Nobody can put out that cigarette.
Right.
Nobody can tell them anything. They're
Right.
just doing what they deserve to do. And now he's expanded that model so that you don't have to be a veteran necessarily.
Correct.
Is that the answer? Is that part of the answer? Is that how does Arnie Land fit into America?
Boy, if you only knew how much I know him. I mean, he's been in my life for a really long time. And we did a lot of stuff together on a wing and a prayer, literally. and it's been great.
Good things come to this man. Very, very good things come to this
Yes.
man, as
This
they have to
man-
your organization. But things always seem to arrive at the right time, right?
Well, he is the 2:30 emailer forever. He needs a little balance in there. But the thing is, what Arnie's done is he's just done, right? He's in action all the time. And you get a lot of arrows thrown at you, and sometimes it can really hurt. And he just keeps moving forward. And the thing is we want to be a player among players, a worker among workers. a citizen among citizens. We don't want to polarize the this, the that, the this, the that, and them, and this. He has neutralized that whole thing, and that's been amazing. And that's exactly why I'm sitting here with Ed today. So this would, when I say to you, these things don't happen, I mean, they don't really happen. When Penta came to the table and Ken Albert just looked at me across the boardroom and he's like, here, blah. And I'm like, I've raised money for a long time. And I've done well at that, but it is a hard siege. Addiction is not a sexy thing to raise money for. You have to get super creative, and we live in a gilded city. It just shouldn't be that hard. And he laid this out, and I was like, my face feels like clay. I was so stunned, and he was equally as stunned that it doesn't happen that often. And then they bring Ed in. So then I go online, and I'm like, he is like way up here.
Yeah, this
in
is
the
not
world.
this is not just an architect that we're talking about here. This is
No, he reminds me of what I think Walt Disney would be like, honestly.
Oh, God.
Just sat down at the table and was just all over it. And it was such an incredible moment. It was such an incredible moment. And so for me, I look at all this in a very different light. I look at it like every day for me is a big deal. It's a big deal. And I would have never thought I'd have moments like this, and it's because of Arnie, and it's because of the work we do, and it's because of his conviction. But then these guys, they're busy. These guys are busy. They're doing big stuff, but they're here. They're offering their time, their support. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of money that goes into the design that you do and the time that you guys spend. But we get to sit there and watch this whole thing happen. And that is a message that the whole community needs to see. Every high end, everything, everywhere that you work, you play, you live here, I'm there.
Yeah.
There are alcoholics and addicts. They're all in there, right? There are homeless people dressing right, looking right, and fitting in so that they could be in someplace warm. So when you get this caliber of people to sit at the table at the mission, that should say something massive to the whole community, and they should all jump on board.
Yeah, and
tomorrow.
I've known Arnie for 20 years too. He's been around forever, and he is a poster child for getting things done. He's a doer.
Yes.
But it's in terms of being a poster child, that's what we'd like this project to serve as. We would like to see this built as a model for other communities. So we're going to take this on the road when it gets done. I'm actually joint venturing. Kind of helping or working with an architect in LA, where that issue couldn't be any more vital to a community. And actually next year, the AIA convention is going to be, the national convention will be in LA. And that's one of the biggest concerns we have right now because of health, safety, and those issues. So we're hoping maybe we can give a little talk on this subject if we can get it moving along a little further and give it and get a little more exposure to all the architects, all 30, we have 92,000 members nationwide. So if we can move the needle on this subject matter, and that, when we can improve a homeless issue, when we design a building better, that's when it transcends the built environment. That's when architecture really transcends itself. And that's when we feel good as architects doing what we do, right?
Going on that, is it so, other than just your facelift and kind of making it nicer and cleaner and more appeasing to the public, is this new renovation going to, logistically, is it going to provide more space for beds, better, mobility for volunteers to get around and help people? Is it going to attract more people to the facility? How is it going to sort of, on a day-to-day reality approach, how is it going to really affect the facility?
All of that, actually, right? Yeah, without a doubt. I just want to clarify too. We're not trying to make it necessarily more appeasing to the community necessarily, for sure, because it deserves that.
Yeah.
But the staff of Whole 38, that's all we have. They deserve that too, and it's that healthy environment. So what that's going to do, so we have the 18 to 22,000 funders at lower dollar amounts, middle. And I mean, these are just amazing people who do this, $50, $100. And so operationally, I have to find sustainable ways. So operational cash is what I will need, without a doubt. Just throwing it out there, everybody. That's what we'll need, operational money. And what that's going to give us is definitely more space and more usable space. So when we sat down with Ed and Penta and talked to them about what we need, so the county contract that we were just awarded was to keep families intact. So the mission and the board of directors that have been doing this for so long did some pretty wonderful things, probably without even knowing they were so wonderful and unique. They have a single fathers and children area and single moms and kids. We've been taking intact families this whole time, mom, dad, but they have to be in separate areas. So when you look at a dad having like 13-year-old boys, I don't know, what's going to be the safest place for everybody to be? The mission's done that epically. I mean, just, it's stunning to me. These are all the factors that were very big to me in even sitting down in the beginning. That and on-demand treatment, which is free treatment for drug and alcohol dependent people, free. And because it should be, really, honestly. And so what that's going to do is it's going to give us an area where we actually can have mom, dad, and kids in the same area, right? Where they can have a family room and they can be together. It will expand our transitional beds, which are people that need some time. They need some time. We need to look at the barriers. We need to fix some stuff. We need to work with them a little longer, and that will give them more space. We can serve more people. Our job here is to create a healthy home for people and get them confident where they're at, work with them, work with apartment complexes, housing units to get them in, help them save the money, get it down, help them furnish it, because we can do that. So this renovation will give us that so much more in a more usable way.
Oh. What's the average stay for somebody at the shelter?
For our recovery program, it's anywhere from 6 to 12 months. That's just really person dependent on where they're at. For transitional, up to 30 days. But again.
And then I imagine you probably have some kind of regulars and maybe drop in
overnight,
a day here and there.
Yep, overnight. 3 and 6 p.m. we have overnight intake, and that's people that are coming in for a bed for that night. Sometimes that'll be a 7-day stay, and we know that going into it, that they're going to need this for 7 days. And so there's a program for that. But they leave during the day. They do not, even transitional, they don't stay on property. While we're working with them, the transitional for a little bit, but then they got to get up, get out there, get back into life.
Yeah, how do you determine who gets a bed? I mean, because you only have like 160 some odd beds, but you're doing over 1,000 meals a day. So there's obviously there's plenty more that need beds than there are beds. So
absolutely.
How do you sort of try and best utilize those beds on a person-to-person basis?
We don't do anything other than whoever shows up.
Okay.
First come, first serve.
Yeah, I mean, we have security. We breathalyze. We weapons check.
Okay.
And we do all that. We pull some interesting things, certainly. But it's really first come, first serve.
Okay.
You mentioned operational cash. So how do people help you in that regard? What do they do? How do they find you?
What? I'm sorry, what?
I said, so you mentioned operational cash.
Yes.
So how do people get involved?
That's my middle name, isn't it? They can get involved in every way. I mean, certainly we take all kinds of cash, checks, cards.
How do they get that to you?
VegasRescue.org, or come down to the mission. Call me. I'll come to you. Well, volunteer is a massive piece to us. We have a very small core staff to run a city, and it is a city. So we rely heavily on volunteers. So every night at our 2 dinners are one for our residents and some staff, and then our outside guest meal, which is again anywhere, it could be $300 to $600 a night. That is all volunteer based. Our thrift store, our sorting, we give out free stuff to the homeless a couple times a week on the back end of the property. We let them come in and shop for parents so they feel like they're in a store, and that's all volunteer run. So as much as we need operational cash, because we do, we need volunteers as well. So www.vegasrescue.org, and then at the top there's the volunteer tab that you can hit, and then you can find a schedule, you can find a slot in there, and there's always a place to donate.
Well, with that, we call it a day, but we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have another section that we're going to go into right after this. And so if you like this, then about another week later, we'll have something else for you. With that, we call it a day, the Vegas Legal Magazine podcast. Sincere thanks to Heather Engle, CEO of Las Vegas Rescue Mission, and Ed Vance of Ed Vance and Associate Architects. Tyler Morgan, publisher of Vegas Legal Magazine. Remember to like and share the Vegas Legal Magazine podcast on Facebook, and also catch us on YouTube, iTunes, or Stitcher. And for all of you out there with a story idea, or an axe to grind, get a hold of Vegas Legal, the leading magazine in the Southern Nevada legal market. You can call your Tyler Morgan at
702-222-3476.
reach out, tell us, tell your friends. Have a good one. We're out of here.